Now, there will be a vote on this on Friday, and it would be the largest relief package in American history. You've made it very clear that you won't be supporting it for a number of reasons. There are many Americans who would love to see another check in the mail, possibly there in your district. So what do you tell them about the Democrats' efforts on this?
Well, there are so many things in this bill that are completely unrelated to coronavirus. I think the most atrocious example of that is we're going to ban all voter ID laws in the entire nation so that illegal immigrants and illegals can vote in our nation's elections, and not only vote, but vote by absentee that will be mandatorily mailed to them. That's the type of things that are shoved in this bill. There are so many money items that are things that completely unrelated to coronavirus. In Florida, we've started to reopen. You're seeing businesses start to reopen. You're starting to see a decrease in overall cases. And so hopefully the money that we've already appropriated, a lot of which hasn't been distributed yet, we'll see the benefits of that here soon as the economy starts to come back.
And I want to touch on Florida reopening in just a moment, but I want to touch on this economic report. This is out of the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, saying that 42% of jobs lost during this pandemic may never come back. That's a big time prediction. If that's true, would you expect the first round of the CARES Act to be sufficient?
Well, involved in the original CARES Act, I think it was the 2.0, if you're counting all the different versions, because there was like 4 or 5 versions now, had 4 months of unemployment. And the unemployment that was in there was so high that a lot of restaurateurs that I talked to were worried about being able to bring their employees back because their employees would be making more on unemployment than they would be making working at their restaurants. So there's 4 months of unemployment compensation in there. We have the PPP funding that went to small businesses that kept their employers on for 8 weeks. I think in states like Florida where we're starting to open, I actually just got a text from a restaurateur today where he rehired almost all of his people. They're back to work. They're open back up. And so I think, at least in Florida, I can't speak for other states, that economic data is going to change significantly. I don't think 42% of the people that were unemployed aren't going to be able to get a job when things come back and all these stay-at-home orders across the country are lifted.
A new report out of Johns Hopkins shows the first stages of reopening haven't produced a surge in COVID cases in states that reopened a little bit earlier than others, of course, Florida being one of them. And you mentioned this a second ago. Florida's new cases tracked over a 7-day period have actually declined by 14% between May 4th and May 11th. So if that's the case, what's your reaction to that, specifically after a poll on governors made the rounds yesterday, showing Governor DeSantis falling short of other governors, such as Mike DeWine in Ohio?
Well, I think the numbers speak for themselves. If a 14% decrease in cases when we're starting to reopen in Florida, if you can go to Publix and you can go to Walmart and you can go to Home Depot and you can go to Lowe's and you don't see a spike in cases, which in Florida, the stay-at-home order allowed for those essential businesses to stay open, and people went out all the time and went to those different places. If you haven't seen a spike in cases while people have been able to go to those retail establishments, then why in the world would you continue to shut down restaurants and other small businesses that aren't deemed essential by the government? Let them make their own decisions for their businesses. If people don't want to go out and want to stay home because they're at high risk, they can do that. But why shutter our economy and shut down small businesses just in the name of possibly fewer people getting cases? But what we're seeing in Florida as we reopen, the number of cases are actually declining. So I think we need to reopen the economy as soon as possible.
All right, last one, Congressman. If you look at residents aged 65 and older, it's no shocker. Some might say that Florida has one of the more vulnerable populations in the country. What are the people there telling you? They're in the 17th district, and what are you observing as people get back to business down there? Older population, maybe. Also, the younger folks getting out and about. But what are they telling you? And are you able to interact much with them in these last few days?
Well, I have the second most elderly district in the entire nation.
Right.
So obviously I have a lot more elderly that live in my district than in most districts across the country. And we did a survey recently, just this past week, and 67% of those surveyed in my district, and this went to Republicans, Democrats, and independents, overwhelmingly support reopening the government and reopening the economy. So of the second most elderly district in the country, with a very large portion of people that were surveyed of multiple different parties, that's a pretty overwhelming response that those in my district who are more elderly want us to reopen the economy and get back to business as usual.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.